A warm welcome to Diski Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's special episode, I'm joined by a very special man who's got a beautiful football brain, one of the sharpest in world football, and he goes by the name of Michael Loftman. Bro, how are you?
Good to see you, man.
Great. So happy that you accepted this invite and looking forward to the conversation that we're about to have.
No, good stuff. No, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
So before we get into it, I actually got something for you. This is something of sentimental value. An orange. Do you remember when you were a little boy and you stood up to your teacher who...
Oh, man, who was outside. This upsets me already now you bring that story. Who was eating the orange in the class.
Yeah.
Wow, what a pick out. Yeah, that was an emotional day, let me tell you.
Yeah. But anyway, let's fast forward from that. It's fine, you can put it away.
Yeah, just so I can keep my emotions in.
Yeah. So let's fast forward from that little boy and you then at 18 years old, you then join Foundation Sports as a PE teacher. How does that come about and where then do you first fall in love with football?
I think it started, obviously I stopped playing when I was 13, 14 and then I had a few years where I just done what a teenager did, I guess.
Yeah.
What a teenager does. And then I think when I got to 18 I needed to look for a job. It was like, okay, but I wanted a job in football. So at 16 I was working in sports shops and I was working in like in museums and things like that. You know, just those jobs that you got to do. And then I think at 18 I was looking for a job I was going to enjoy a bit more. So then I was looking online for coaching jobs. And then Foundation Sports were hiring coaches to go into schools and start doing community bits like that. So I started off just kind of coaching primary school kids after school, and sometimes it wasn't even football. I was doing cricket, I was doing tennis, I was doing basketball. But obviously stepping from a previous non-sports job to go into a sports job was like a really enjoyable experience. And then when I was there, just as the progression, I started doing my FA coaching badges, and then I was able to do a bit more. So I was now able to like take club teams after school, able to start PE teaching alongside my degree. So yeah, it opened up my initial football/sports doors to kind of get that experience on the grass.
Yeah. So at that young age, I mean, you're a teenager, and a lot of teenagers don't think about coaching, you know, and if there's something I've learned during my journey is that you get people who are football brains, but not everybody with a football brain is become a great player. You know, some become great coaches, some become great analysts, you know, and they can work in various departments within a football club. What informs the decision to go into getting your badges?
I think, yeah, it's a really good question. I think because I already had like a little bit of a playing, I say not a career, I played at like youth level obviously. So like already having played football and just being athletic anyway, I also played basketball, also played tennis. So I was already a sports person. So now going into the coaching field, it just seems like at that age a no-brainer, right? It was like I'm getting to combine earning money, but now with doing something that I really enjoy doing. So it's like mixing your passion and your finances together. So that's probably the initial idea, and then it just kind of each day just blossoms, doesn't it? So you do your first day at work and then see how you feel and then you love it, so then you do it a bit more and then you open up and you keep trying to progress. So yeah, I think combining the passion with the financial benefit of the sport.
And then you then progress and have the opportunity to join Watford as a sports scientist. How does that come about?
So I was in my second year of my degree, and then you had to now look for an internship. Like you had to now go get practical experience to kind of help with your development. So I applied for a role at Watford as like an intern sports scientist, and then that was a crazy experience. It was like the Watford Academy at the time was probably one of the best run in the country, doing really well. Lots of players coming through into the first team. So the academy manager now at Man United was actually the academy manager at Watford at the time. So really learning from some great people and the professionalism in the environment, from going from like school sports and the community environment to going to professional academy environment was just like,
the difference.
I went in and my eyes were just like eyes wide open now to the progression.
And having spent time there, what are some of the things that you learned, and which were some of the young talents that you got to experience firsthand there?
So I think Jadon Sancho he was under 9 when I was there. That's how long ago it was. It feels like a lifetime ago. He was under 9 in the under 9s group. I think Bernard Mensah, who went on to play for the first team also. Afolabi also went on to the first team. They were, I think, 15 and 16. So they had 2 or 3 come through there. Dominic Ball went to Tottenham. So there was a group of the under 15, 16s that were really strong, and then obviously their youngsters had Jadon Sancho and a few others that have gone on to play professionally now. So that was a really interesting experience, and I think the biggest thing, as I said, was like just a level of professionalism. So from a community perspective, coaching cannot be taken as serious as it needs to be, because you think, it's just a community, it doesn't matter, when actually the standards should be as high as the academy level or professional level. Unfortunately, it wasn't. At the time, so opening your eyes to just like the way people dressed and the way people spoke and the way people behaved, and everything was like, time was extremely important. You know, like community sessions, for example, I used to be able to get away with turning up 5 minutes before and quickly setting up. You know, that's what community coaching unfortunately was. You were rushing between sessions, so maybe I had 3 sessions in an afternoon. So I was driving here, do a session, quickly set up, do it. Next one, set up, do it. Whereas like academy environment, the coaches are there 45 minutes early. You get there and everything's set up, so the players are arriving. They've already got exercises to do. So just a really high level of professionalism was just a big eye opener. There's sports science, obviously, which I was working in. They had coaching, we had psychology, nutrition. So we covered such a wide basis. It was really, really good experience.
Yeah, and from Watford, then you go into Tottenham as a development coach. How was that transition, and how does that opportunity come about?
Yeah, so I think because I was a sports scientist at Watford, the only thing I was doing on the field was conditioning work and like stuff like that. I wasn't actually able to do any of the football stuff. But I knew that I wanted the environment, and obviously outside of that I was doing football coaching in the community. So you combine like that professional environment, or trying to strive to be in that professional environment, with the love for football coaching. Like those two, they're married together now to go to work at Tottenham. So Chris Ramsey, who was head of coaching at the time, who's now I think head of football development at QPR. But obviously he went on to be a first team manager, and he's one of the best on the field coaches in the country, I think. Not just from my perspective, but if you ask a lot of coaches, they'll say he's probably one of the best from a player development perspective. So he came to my university when I was doing my masters and gave a talk about just like the kind of work that he was doing, and like areas for coaches to improve and things like that. And then I just spoke with him after, and then there was a job that came up, and obviously now I could use him as a reference because I just now spoke to him and engaged with him. So I said, look, I've just had a meeting with Chris, and can I now, I'm interested in this job, and I went for an interview and stuff and got the job. And that was a huge experience. I think Chris Ramsey leading like in-service training, so like CPD for the coaches. Going in just took like technical detail to another level. So at each stage of my journey, I can kind of take away a key message, and the key thing at Tottenham really was like the detail that you must go into. So like he was talking about, for example, with the younger players when they're doing kick-ups to practice their ball control. He's talking about like the angle of the knee, the angle of the foot, like the angle of the hips, and the thing that inside kick-ups does as opposed to outside kick-ups. And like it was like the level of knowledge that he was giving was just huge. There was one day we went in for CPD, and we actually had to do the training. So he was giving us the exercises, and they were just things that we couldn't do, and things we didn't understand why it was important. And it was actually embarrassing for us. It was like doing inside and outside kick-ups, and then you bring the under-9s in. And the under-9s are now doing inside-outside kick-ups without the ball touching the ground. And you're like, but if an under-9 can do this and coaches can't, what does that tell us? It means as coaches we've got to go and practice. So now we have to now go practice the key development aspects and develop them. But yeah, the big thing was technical detail, just another level.
Yeah, and speaking of technical detail, what then propels the decision to go into getting your UEFA license?
Yeah, I think in England it's kind of like a straight progression. So you've got your level 1 and level 2, then after that you go into UEFA B, UEFA A. So it's kind of like generally a progression. You've got stuff outside of that, so you've got youth awards and things like that, which I completed. But generally it's like after your level 2, you try and go on your UEFA B. After your UEFA B, your UEFA A. And I got rejected for when I was applying at times, and had a lot of stressful moments. It wasn't easy to get on, but yeah, eventually managed to progress through that journey. But yeah, very difficult process in England because I think they limited the courses at the time. So it was like, whereas I think in other countries you get courses running every month, there it was like maybe 2 or 3 a year at the time, if I remember. So to get on was really difficult. So I was very lucky to be able to get the support to get on the course.
Yeah, so I'd just like for you to elaborate and go into depth with regards to the UEFA licenses, especially for us South Africans. You know, it's something that we hear about, but I think a lot of us aren't really in tune with regards to how do they work, what is the process of getting one, and when you have a UEFA license, what does it mean?
Okay, so the courses, it starts with your level 1. I can only speak for when I went through the journey. I know there's been some changes, but I'm sure there's some similarities also.
Yeah.
So your level 1 was just about being on the pitch and like learning to put on a session.
Yeah.
The very, very basic foundation stuff of like a few different types of sessions and how to just put them on. A little bit about communication, but just your foundation level. Your level 2 now starts implementing the detail behind it. So now you put on a practice, but now what can you coach the players? What kind of information can you give and how can you deliver that? And then you just go a little bit bigger with the numbers. And then your UEFA B now starts to look at like 10v8 games, 8v8 games, small-sided games. So you're now coaching tactical detail.
Yeah.
So you've gone from technical stuff like passing, receiving, ball control, etc., to now looking at the tactical side of the game. So a little bit about formations and structures and patterns and pictures. And then you progress to the UEFA A, which is now about 11v11 mostly. So it's about now you've got a team, you've got a squad. How can you coach that squad?
Yeah.
And then, of course, eventually you get to your pro license, which I haven't managed to get yet, but you get your pro license, which is now about management. So that was generally how the pathway was, and I'm sure it's pretty similar now, alongside some changes they've made. So yeah, that was the kind of journey. In terms of how to get on, I think now what some of the FAs are doing, I think the Scottish FA has been really good for any coaches listening. I know a lot of coaches that are now doing their UEFA C, and some have gone on to their UEFA B now through the Scottish FA, because you can do most of it online, and then you just travel to do your practical. So that's been really powerful for coaches abroad working to try and get onto those qualifications.
Yeah. So with that being said, I know a very big moment comes into your life where you decide to leave the UK. You now go to Zambia. What were you going through from an emotional perspective at that time and psychologically as well? Because I'd like to think at that age, you know, you're still young and it's such a huge decision to make.
Yeah, I think I was very stressed. I think I was I was 25 years old. I was in a really emotional place in terms of frustrated with the industry, because I just felt like unless you was a former player, there was no pathway. There was no here's an option or here's how you can progress. It was like you hit a ceiling. So I think for me at Dagenham Redbridge, I was working with under 15s and 16s, helping out with the under 18s, and then coaching the foundation phase. So doing a lot of academy work. But from there, it was like, where do you progress? Where do you go? There was no, you're not going to get a first team job. You're not going to get under 23 job, because there were so many ex-pros coming out of the game that go straight into those. And rightly so in some cases, because some of them have got great experience and they've gone and done their badges and they've progressed and learned. But I also felt like there were coaches that came straight in that had no coaching experience. So I was like, how am I going to compete no matter what experience I get? So then I started following British coaches abroad. So there was a company that was helping coaches find jobs abroad and telling stories about the coaches that have gone and done it. So there was about 10, 15 coaches I was aware of that had already gone abroad to kind of pursue that dream. And some of them have gone on to be head coaches abroad, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So I think I went on holiday to Zambia around Christmas. And then I came back, and then within like a couple of weeks I booked flights, and I just booked a flight, I left my job and just up and went, and I said I'm going to go chase this dream, which at the time felt fine, but now I look back, I'm thinking, that was pretty crazy. But in the moment it was just like, it's one of those things, you know, it wasn't something I thought about. So
so you then arrive in Zambia, and my research tells me you arrived as a technical director, only for you to end up coaching. And you end up coaching these men who are so old, you know, and some of them who are sort of old enough to be sort of like your father, some of them old enough to be like your uncle. Like, what is that process like, you know? Because when you have a look at it from an African perspective, generally, the older a person is, the more respect we tend to give to them. But here's this 25-year-old coming from the UK. He's got an accent, and he's new to this environment. How then do you fashion relationships within that environment, and how do you navigate within that difficult environment?
Yeah, it was a really, really unique situation, which I think kind of gave me the power or influence over that group. So I think when I first got to Zambia, I didn't have a job, but then when I was going for meetings, an agent took me to meet someone who was a young investor. So it was a young lawyer who invested in a football club. So the age thing kind of became less of a problem because he was also young. So after we had meetings and stuff, as you mentioned, I eventually became technical director, then eventually head coach. Without even realizing that was going to happen. But now I realize it's such a common thing in football that technical directors are often the next coach in line, which I hate. That. Now I look back, I hate the fact that happened because I don't think it's necessarily right, but that was the case. And then, in terms of the group, I think because the person who brought me into the club had so much faith in me, it meant that the players also now had faith in me, and it helps obviously that the person who brought me in was controlling the money, and the players obviously need to get paid. So, that part of the game will never change. That made it a bit easier. But I think the thing is, I never commanded respect due to being English, and I never said that made me any kind of better. Like there was this viewpoint that like some of the players say, no, but because you're from England, you can help us with this, or you know this, and that wasn't the case. It was like I was a 25-year-old kid going into a senior environment where some of these players had played international football, and I'd never even been in an international environment to understand what that was like. So they actually had more to give me than I had to give them. So I was consistently learning and talking, and I think the key is building relationships. I always speak to coaches, and not even people in coaches, like some people in business that I speak to and say, get the relationships right first. If there's anything I've learned since I left England and became uncomfortable when having to learn was building relationships first. So like just getting to know the players and what do they do, where do they live, what are they aspiring to do, how can I help them achieve that before you try instructing, So my initial days at the club my initial days coaching in the club, whenever do this, do that, it was always like build relationships, and then you try and get that buy-in to now have to help them with coaching.
And whenever coaches get to a club, this is a question I always have, right? Because you do have some coaches who look to impose their game model with regards to how the team should play. When you get into that situation and you now know that you're the head coach, are you looking at the squad and thinking, okay, we're going to play a certain way because of the players that I have? Or is it you trying to impose your game model and saying, guys, this is the game model, this is how we're going to play?
I think if you've got a big reputation and a support from the club and like long-term support, you can go and put your own game model in, right? In a unique situation, it's very rare you get that, but there are some opportunities to do that. I didn't have that blessing in Zambia, for example. I mean, my captain was 38 years old and just won 3 or 4 league titles with his former club. For me to now come in and say, right, I'm this 25-year-old here, come and do this, would have been crazy. You would lose players straight away. So it was about trying to embed some principles gradually to try and get there. And I think sometimes the idea is have your vision of what the game model looks like, but don't get there by saying this is it, follow it. It's like navigating to try and get to that, but without saying here it is, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah. No, I think that is actually a very cool way of going about things, because you need the players buy-in. You really need the players buy-in. So you then visit South Africa. I think this has been like a common feature, is that when you visit a place, 100%. You're like,
this is the place for me.
This is the place for me. So you then visit South Africa. What is it about South Africa that interests you and that hooks you?
Yeah, it's bad to say because at the time, I hope I've grown up a lot now, but when I first came, I was actually I booked an Airbnb on De Beer Street in Braamfontein. I think it was De Beer Street on the corner. I don't know if you know Braamfontein, but I was right next to Kitcheners, I was right next to Great Dane and neighbours across the road. So at that age, I think like the bad thing was initially that was my attraction. It was like I went on holiday and it was like my reward for we won a game 4-1, and then the owner said no, you can go to South Africa. So when I come, the first few days were just spent having fun and relaxing as a break. So I just had too much fun in Braamfontein probably initially because I had someone who I was working with in Zambia, their cousin was here, so they took me around and showed me the places. So initially it was fun. But then obviously I started going to watch PSL games. So I think my first game I went to watch was Sundown Supersport, and I started meeting with coaches and I started meeting with agents, and then I think this whole picture started to be created of like the music, the culture, the food, the football, everything come together. And then started to paint a picture of this is where you can add a lot of value, but you can also receive a lot of value. I'm big on like you've got to do both. You can't move country and now just try and take from what they've got. You've got to try and bring, but also learn and absorb what they can teach you. So I think I saw both sides. Holistically, I just fell in love with the country. So even when I leave here, I just want to get back. So
So then that then informs the decision to move. So with you moving from Zambia and moving to South Africa permanently, was there an idea? Was there a plan? Was there a picture with regards to what you would do next? Or was it similar to, I'm just moving to South Africa, we'll see, we'll take it from there?
I wish I could say there was a plan. I think in my 20s I was just like blind to just chasing a dream, right?
Yeah.
And it was like whatever I'm just trying to pursue it as quickly as possible. So whatever it takes to get there, that's where I'm going, and that's what I'm doing. So I think I wish I could say I had a long-term plan, but I think it was like, right, let me just focus on the next step and just focus on one part at a time.
Yeah. So when you get here, what are your days like? Because there's so much uncertainty. What are your days like? What were you trying to do? And who are you trying to connect with? Because I do know that somebody who's key is Glenn Blinken. So how does that relationship get formed? And who else were you trying to contact at that time?
I think when I came here first, so you have a 3 months tourist visa. So I had like 3 months to like be a tourist, but also try and network while I was here. So the whole 3 months, I think I messaged probably every club. There was every club in the PSL.
Yeah.
I messaged so many coaches, and lots of coaches gave me time. Lots of coaches ignored my messages and stuff, which is fine. It's part of football.
Yeah.
But I think like some of the key people. So Glenn Blinken met with me when I first come, and he gave me like an explanation of just NFT, PSL, some of like the key information, the key background information on how the clubs work and how the clubs operate and how the leagues operate, to give me that foundation, which was really, really important. Coach Karabo, who's the coach at UJ, he sat down with me for a while also, which I would never forget. He came to Bram and met me and sat down. We had a lunch and stuff. He explained a lot to me, so I'll always be grateful for that. I think Stuart Baxter gave me a lot of time. I think I went to watch training with his like 3 or 4 times, and he also sat down with me. So I was really trying to network with everybody and anybody, because like football, unfortunately or fortunately, is like who you know, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is your network. So I think in those 3 months I was networking with everybody. Then I think I met with Glenn maybe in the first 2 weeks, and I didn't hear from him again. But then a week before my visa was about to run out and I was about to go home, he actually called me and said, no, there's a possibility of a job here. And I went for a meeting and then got offered a job. So like that was, and I was really, the idea of leaving South Africa and not being able to come back, and it was like so devastating. It was really like, the idea was really sad. So when I eventually got that call and got the job, it was like, I was over the moon.
And that was at Warriors FC?
Yeah, that's right.
So in which capacity did you join them?
So initially it was coach education, and then it became technical director. But I think all the way across, the most important point was like trying to deliver coach education and being a curriculum and program. And that's where the first time I started delivering coach education and felt like that I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed because coaches, we're often so like self-centered or player-centered because we focus on us and our team. So it was weird to now have to look after coaches and manage people and manage adults. Like I was working again with coaches that are much older than me, and having to try and manage and navigate that relationship. So like it taught me a lot. I was there for 18 months, and as I said, eventually became technical director. But the main focus all the time was coach education. Yeah.
So after that comes the big move, and how then do you get into contact with Coach Rulani, or better yet, how does he get into contact with you, and how does he discover you?
It's actually, so there's a coach Tuso. So there's a coach called Tuso Shabalala. He was actually following my journey in Zambia. So he was actually messaging me in Zambia saying, oh, congratulations on the role and stuff. So before I met anyone in South Africa, he was already like in discussion with me, and we was talking, which was really good. Then when I came, I remember just talking to him saying like, is there anyone you recommend me speak to? And then eventually he said, no, come and meet Coach Rulani. And then he called Coach Rulani, I think, and said, no, Michael, come and meet Coach Michael. He's from the UK, da, da, da. But then I think I went there. Then I went to lunch at Rand Stadium, where Pirates. Where I went to lunch with Coach Micho, Coach Rulani, and then I think we just chatted for a few weeks there. We just discussed and kept in touch. And then I think there was a point where they were looking to bring someone in. So he recommended me as someone to come in. And then since then it's just been,
So he tells a story of how he actually asked you to analyze
the cheese the cheese stuff.
So when he asks you that, what are you thinking in your head, and how then do you go home and look to compile that report?
So now I remember. So I think there was a Chiefs Pirates derby coming up. So I don't know if he called me to ask, or I was on the phone to him and I said I'll do something, or I just did it. I'm not sure exactly how the story worked, but I remember the report now. I visually remember it. So I think I did a Chiefs Pirates report, and it had like the key images of like the threats from Chiefs and things to look out for and stuff. And then I think he gave it to management also. So I think when the game was on, they were going through the report to say, okay, what's in this, and is this stuff relevant? Was he saying the correct things and stuff? And I think a lot of it, whether it was luck or I just knew, I don't know how, all the things seemed to happen in the game. So I think at the time, if I remember, it was Castro playing up front, and it was like long ball flick-ons for Castro, and I was just giving the detail of maybe how to manage that. So the report must have gone down well, because I think that might have been also a really key point for me getting into the club.
So you get to the club. And I think it's key to just break it down to people that with the first team, you're involved as an analyst and assistant coach. And then with the MDC team, it was you being the head coach. So when you do get to the club, what is the feeling like? Because this is such a massive institution in South African football.
Yeah, just so it's clear, so my role title for the first team was always first team analyst.
Okay.
But what it led to was that I would end up coaching the players that then travelled, and then so that when the team travelled, there was players there behind that I would coach, and I would just be helping out on the pitch day to day. So like my official title was first team analyst, but then after I think maybe a year I was there, maybe 6 months I was there, something that I then took over the reserve team to help out. So initially going into that environment was crazy, because obviously the size of the club, I mean, even like, some of the big clubs that you think of around the world, Pirates, like in terms of the size and the fan base and the expectation, like it's up there. Like you walk around, all of a sudden you go from in South Africa, nobody knew who I was. I was just working at a youth club, to now you're walking around at Pirates and people are either recognizing you or even just recognizing the kit. It's like, it was all of a sudden a big thing. And it's a huge institution. Like I don't think I understood that until I went into that environment to really feel it. Which was great. I mean, the experience of working in pressure like that means that I'm not really worried about going to any size club, because if you can handle pressure or survive pressure in that environment and survive the expectation, then you can go on to do a lot of things. But I think the MDC was maybe, both experiences are really important, but from a coaching perspective, the MDC experience was definitely the one that I needed to go well, and I'm really happy that it did go really well for the time that I was there. Yeah,
so let's start with the first team. At that time, you were with Coach Rulani, you were with Coach Micho. Your best 11 at that time, and how were you guys looking to set up?
To give my best 11 would be very, very difficult. I can give you a kind of foundation of of who was playing.
Okay, but
in that period.
I need you to set out your star.
But there's no black markers here. There's only one for Pirates, so I have to use red for Pirates, right?
You can use red. They've had a red kit. Yeah.
Okay, we've had red kits. Okay, so keeper.
So we can go from that way going up.
So this way going up.
Yeah.
So you want keeper here?
Yeah, keeper this side. Yeah.
Keeper here. So we rotated keepers a lot.
Yeah.
So keepers, we had Sia Ponchane, had Wayne Sandilands, had Jackson Mabokwane also. There was a period where there was Brilliant Kuzwayo. So so they rotated a lot. So there was 4 different keepers in there. So right back, we had Mtokozizi Dube.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying his name right, because he will not be happy with me. So Dube right back, we had Mayala left back.
Yeah.
Happy Jele centre back, and then we had varieties. We had Nsiki centre back, Nyauza. We also had Gladwin Chitolo playing centre back.
Yeah.
The midfield was really, really important for us. So we played with 2 here generally, which was Musa Niatama and Malambo, 10-10, playing there. And they were really, really key at the time for the way that we wanted to play, because it was possession orientated. If you remember that period that we were there, it was very like dominating the ball and dominating the game. We had a Lorch, we had Mela, we had a Justin Shonga, and sometimes we had maybe a Lorch in here and then a Mulenga.
Yeah.
So like a 4-2-3-1. Structure, and Shonga was, and the other focus, of course, with the possession was the high press. So Shonga was really important for the high press, and then our midfield and our 10s were really, really important for the creating of chances and dominating possession.
Yeah, and when you look at this team, which are some of the players that stood out to you?
So I think Musa Niatama in midfield, I think his story is great because he was actually an attacking midfielder, if you remember before. He was playing as a 10 behind the striker and more creating chances. So he came into this deep playmaker role. And he was so important for keeping safe and secure possession. I mean, his possession stats, sometimes his passing stats were like 98% pass completion, which is just massive. And yet, he doesn't just play backwards and sideways, he could play forwards. So he was really, really key. And I think Luch and Memela. So I think when Meme and Luch played, I think there was a Sundowns game where we won 3-1. There was a few Sundowns games also where they were just like on another level. So Luch and Meme. Even Meme was getting on in age, but his quality was just like was just phenomenal. And then, as I mentioned, Shonga in the high press was really, really key. So out of possession, he became really important for the team.
Yeah. So with this first team, which moment stands out for you?
There were so many.
You can give me your top 3.
Top 3 moments.
Yeah, that stand out with the first team.
I think the Sundowns goals, the goals against Sundowns from the pressing trap. So setting up a higher press and then forcing balls into midfield areas here, where we regain the ball and then the team opposition is open. So I think the Sundowns game where we won the game of pressing traps a couple of times was really, really, really key.
Yeah.
Then it was a Bloemfontein Celtic game where we won 4-1. I think it was 4-1, 3-1, something like that. And then Musa Niatama was played the dodge pass over in like the first 10 minutes. So dodge pass just means over the top of the opposing defensive line.
Yeah.
And I remember we'd been working on that in the week. So we'd been working on these passes over the top. And Musa wasn't normally comfortable doing that, but then when he did do it, then we scored from it. That was also a great moment.
Yeah.
And there were some great goals. I mean, there was Stronger's goal, Polokwane, bottom corner across the keeper.
Yeah.
I think it was on the volley from here. And it was very, from maybe a bit further, really wide outside the penalty. That was a great goal. And there was Mulenga's strike, also I think was against Bloom. Mulenga's strike from around here, top corner. So there were some great individual moments. I think some of the highlights, as much as the team played consistently well in terms of keeping possession and dominating the game, some of the moments were really when players had their individual moments that they're the ones that I remember, when the players have their moments.
Yeah. And what was your relationship like with Coach Micho?
Yeah, good. I think sometimes when you're young, and this is one of the things that I've learned now, when you're young, you only learn to appreciate people's abilities and talents maybe later on. Mm-hmm. So there were some things that we clashed on for sure, because obviously I'm a young person coming through, I've got my own beliefs, and I think the game is going in a modern direction. But I think after the experience, I can look back and say there were some positive things that I didn't appreciate at the time. So like his management of individual players, which players only spoke to me about some of those things behind the scenes after, So like once the coach is gone, sometimes the player says, but I miss when a coach did this, or I miss when this happened, or I appreciate when this happened. So I only started to appreciate that maybe after. And I think this is one of the things as young coaches, it's another thing that I say a lot, is like, we have this idea of what a coach should look like, and that they should be like the perfect tactician and they should be the perfect man manager and everything. But no coach is like that. Yeah. Everywhere you go, you're going to find coaches that have strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes when we're in environments now, it's like looking to find those strengths. And that's something that I've been better at in my last 2 roles, where now I can go in and say, okay, the environment's not perfect, and no environment is, but I can start to look for those really positive things and start to learn from those, So he definitely had some of those in terms of the man management department.
Yeah. And with Coach Rulani? Considering that he was much younger than Micho, so he's sort of a lot closer with regards to their age bracket to you. Yeah,
so our minds are probably a lot more similar in terms of coming through the same era of coaching. We watch the same matches, so we would watch a Man City game and then talk about it after. What did Pep do? What did Klopp do? We was always talking about football. So from a tactical perspective, our minds just like kind of synced quite well. And I think it was easier for me to soak up the knowledge that he had because we had that similar mindset. So the way that he was talking and things, I was just like stealing ideas, to be honest. Like he was talking and I'm just, okay, I want to take that, I want to take that, I want to take that. I was latching onto that. I think because of, as you mentioned, it's like the generation that we've come through of now, what coaching is and what coaching stands for, we're a lot more aligned. So that made it a lot more easier to connect and take the lessons and hopefully also bring some value myself.
Yeah. So how does the opportunity to become the head coach for the MDC come about?
Yeah, that was really interesting. So initially my role was first team analyst, and it was like it was first team 100% focused. And then the MDC team was struggling. I think they played 3 games in the opening part of the season, and they didn't win a game, and they were taking first team players, but the first team players weren't playing well. So I think they were really struggling at the time. So remember, I went with them for a week just to help them in terms of like trying to link what the first team are doing to what the MDC team are doing. I spent a week with them. And then after that week, I think I went back with the first team again, and then I was doing a little bit of both. And then I think after the fourth game, it didn't go well again or something. So I think the club just said to me, "Hey, can you just go and just get things back on track?" It's not your role is still with the first team, so you'll stay and do that. But in the afternoons, if you can go and like take over that element to try and get them back on track, because it didn't start so well that season. So it was like initial. I didn't have time. It was like, right, from week one, we need to show progression and show that we're similar to the first team. That was the challenge, really, implementing what had already been done in the first team and getting them back to not just results, because I don't think they just cared about results at MDC. It was like results, but also the development of the players, like seeing the players grow into the development pathways they needed to.
And speaking of development of the players, because you were quite key then in introducing these individual programs where players would have to come early before the session starts and they'd have to work on those individual things. How were you able then to command the respect of players? Because the thing is about human beings, we're creatures of habit. So if I'm used to arriving to training 5 minutes before, when this new coach comes and he comes from the first team and he's telling me I have to be here maybe 45 minutes before to work on individual things, it might sort of be a culture shock in a sense. How were you able then to get that relationship and get that focus going with regards to the individual programs?
I think the key was that I didn't make them come early. It became more of a thing where they wanted to come early. But what I did say is that after you come and you warm up, so the conditioning coach taught them a warm-up and that they could go do it themselves, because they're at an age where, they should be more responsible to be able to go and deliver their own warm-up. So I think in that stage it was the conditioning coach taught a warm-up, they came in and warmed up, and then after that the first thing you do is individuals. Because football is a team sport played by individuals. We can't ever forget that, and coaches do. We focus on formation and team, but it's played by individual players. So the better your individual players are, the better the team is. And I tried to explain that, and I think eventually, and the initial reaction is always, why am I doing this work? But once they saw the benefits, I remember our left centre back, who couldn't play a switch pass, couldn't play a diagonal pass in the air. But after 2 or 3 weeks of individuals, all of a sudden he's playing that pass with ease. So now, the buy-in, I don't have to say anything anymore. The buy-in is present. The buy-in is visual, not just for him, but for all the players that are now watching, going, damn, he couldn't do that 3 weeks ago, but now he's doing it, and he's doing it with ease. So I think the buy-in comes from the outcome. If players are doing individuals and you don't know how to train players individually and they're not getting any benefit, then you lose the buy-in, because they say, why am I doing this? So it's all about authentic buy-in. It's seeing that it's actually beneficial. I'm not selling you a dream. I'm not saying just do it because I want to see you work hard. I'm saying do it because you're going to become a better player. And as soon as they started seeing these results, the whole team was, now we had 20 players on the pitch doing individual training together. It was I say together, but they're all doing the individual stuff. But as a team, it was incredible. So now everywhere I've gone, I've tried to always push, let's focus more on this, because as I said, the better the players you have, the better the team.
And I think you did that really well, because it then became evident in the games you were playing with. And one thing I always look at is when players score a goal, who do they run to? And a lot of the times your players would run to you and jump on you and celebrate with you. And that in a way is sort of a mark of, hey, coach, you had asked us to do certain things, we're doing them, it's paying off, thank you very much. So when you do have a look at your MDC team, what was the approach from a tactical standpoint, and what were some of the key principles?
So I think we tried to obviously get as close to what the first team were doing as possible in terms of principles of the game. It looked a little bit different at times because of the personnel, but generally was looking to try and get as close to the first team as possible. So one of the big things we did was we played a little bit differently, because we played with 1-6 and 2-8s. But we played the same kind of principles, as I said, but 1-6 and 2-8s. And then generally what I eventually did after, it took me a little while to be brave enough to do it, but we actually played our wingers as fullbacks. So we actually played our right winger and our left winger. So I don't know if you remember Shorty. There's a really tall left foot, unbelievable skill 1v1. We actually played him as a fullback. So we actually played the fullbacks really, really high. Because what you find is, I'll just explain the formation first, sorry. What you find is when you play a traditional 4-3-3, your wingers invert a little bit. So this is a 7 and 11. They tend to invert, right, to create space for the fullbacks. So what you then find when they invert is you get this overload in midfield here, Then then the players that actually end up in a higher position are your fullbacks.
Yeah.
So this is your number 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So if you look at it a bit similar to Liverpool, it would be like your Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson.
Yeah.
So now in these positions here, when they get higher, so if I move them up the field, I just don't want to knock this ball over, but I move them up. So now you're trying to beat the block, because most of the time, if you're a big club, if you're a Pirates, most teams just come and defend because they don't want to get...
They want to get 5.
Yeah, they don't want to get hammered, so they come and defend. So we played a lot against the block. So now if you imagine in these block situations, when your fullback if you get high up the pitch here, what attributes do they need to have success?
Attributes of a winger.
Attributes of a winger, right?
Yeah.
So now, if you've got attributes as a fullback, which is like generally safe and secure passing, good in the air, good defensive awareness, they don't really help you here.
Yeah. From here, they're always going to go square on or backwards. They play the safe pass.
Or they're going to put an average cross in. Unless they're really aggressive fullbacks, they're going to put an average cross in. So actually, we put our wingers here. So we played with a boy called Medisha here, right, on the right back, and then Schulte left back.
Yeah.
So now what happened is, we had our wingers inside. So these wingers would play as more 10s. So these were number 10.
Sort of occupying the half spaces.
Occupying half spaces, exactly. Now in white, so we now had a threat from both our inside wingers, so these players here, and the fullbacks here.
Yeah.
As opposed to just having fullbacks here who can receive the ball and play, but then only your threat coming from here. So we now have 5 players. So now our fullback was getting 1v1 with an opponent here. Yeah. And our fullback was dribbling 1v1 and beating players on both sides.
Yeah.
So on this side of the pitch, Schulte was doing the same.
Yeah.
So in these 1v1 situations, they had our fullbacks running at players as opposed to just putting crosses or playing safe passes.
Yeah.
So that was a really big thing for us. We had 2+3 in rest defence, so I don't know if everyone's aware of rest defence, but basically when the team is attacking here, so if you imagine these 5 are attacking, what does your defensive organisation and structure look like here? Yeah. So we had a 2+3, which sometimes, because our 6 could play here and play here, we sometimes look like a 3+2, with 2 more centrally here. So that was our rest defence. And then our job was for these 5 to now try and create chances. So a big thing for us, 1v1 isolations, as I mentioned. Combination play. So I don't know if you remember the goal where we beat Chiefs 1-0 in the MDC derby. Was a combination play between our 10 and our striker. And then it was actually, I don't know, was Schulte playing left back or was a winger in that game, but Schulte arriving back post for the header. So it was like 1v1 domination, trying to be aggressive, as well as the 10s inside the pockets to try and create in relation with the 9, in combination with the 9. Yeah,
so you guys generally had a very aggressive offensive scheme, very similar to what you'd see from Manchester City, with either it being a 2-3-5 or a 3-2-5 sort of offensive scheme and aggressive, and having the 5 across to create obviously that numerical superiority against if it would be a back 4.
Yeah, just the only difference from Man City is so they tend to invert the fullbacks because of this exact situation. So they have bigger fullbacks. Okay, we use Kyle Walker as an example. Really good for defending the transition, really good for defending the space. So, but not so good in these areas here, 1v1. So he comes and inverts. So down to personnel, they have their fullbacks that tend to be here. Whereas Liverpool have aggressive fullbacks that want to now put in crosses and get to the byline. So they now have their fullbacks here. So, but in terms of the structure, as you mentioned, it's a 5+5, 2+3, or 3+2 in the rest defence.
Yeah, and what is one moment that stands out with you, with regards to you and your MDC boys, and something you look back at and be like, yo, okay, no, that was a great moment in the season. Whether it was something you guys had been working on, or it was a game, or it was a moment at the end of the season that you realized that, okay, this was a great moment with the boys that you were in charge of.
I think it was the first game of the Shield. I think the first game of the Shield we played Bidvest in Limpopo. So and it was my first time in Limpopo, and it was hot. The weather was real. So that was probably one of the highlights. I think after that the players had to go to London for Project X. So they went and played against teams in England. So they lost all the players for the MDC then. But in terms of that game, I just think all the stuff we've been working on for months had now come out. So it was like we only had, I think, 11 or 12 games of the league. The league finished, and then it was onto the Shield. And then from the Shield now, it was like everything clicked. It was like all that work had been done was now like coming out. And I think the best thing about that game, which I hadn't been like in previous games, they say the best coach doesn't need to say anything during the game, or says very minimal, because they've done the work on the pitch. Right, so on the game now it's just a bit of motivation and a few tactical tweaks, but generally you don't have to give constant information. So in the first games I was giving information all the time because we had to quickly turn things around. But I think by the time we got to the Shield, I didn't really have to say much. It was like the players understood so much that they were running the game, and that's where you really get success, when your players run the game for you. That's when you're on another level. It's like autopilot. So yeah, by that game I felt like it was autopilot, and it was like the pictures and the patterns that we'd worked on, the principles were just coming out naturally.
Yeah. So you then come to the end of your spell at Orlando Pirates. So what happens around that period and you leaving Orlando Pirates and sort of moving on to the next step in your journey?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been tough because you want to stay in clubs for long. You want to build the relationships and you want that comfort, right? Like, it's not nice to keep moving all the time. But at the same time, I think every club and for every coach in the world, you're going to get to a point where you go, okay, I've taken everything I can and I've given everything I can.
Yeah.
Like, everything I'd given now, had been used as much as it could.
Yeah.
So my value had been taken, and I don't think there was much for me to grow and learn from there. So it was just a very mutual thing of just an open discussion to say, look, this is the situation. What do you think? And like, I was really grateful that they allowed me to leave to pursue my own personal things, because hopefully they were also happy with the input that I given when I was there, knowing that I did my work and I was attentive and I did extra when I could and I was with the players more than I needed to be and stuff like that. So yeah, and then I think that the period after that was really tough because, again, I didn't have a job lined up. Like, for me, it's always been difficult because I don't feel morally okay, like, being at a club and then behind the back now talking to other clubs. So all of my jobs, it's like there's been breaks in between. Because I've just kind of said, I'm finished with this chapter, but I'm not ready while I'm in this chapter to be ringing and talking to agents and all that stuff. So I've always just kind of had these breaks. And that break was the toughest because it was the first time I maybe had a break after being really, really settled. So obviously in Zambia, I was only there for a year. But in South Africa now, I'd been here for, I think, 3.5 years, maybe 4 years. Yeah. So I was like settled, I was happy. So to leave a job now and have all the insecurity again was like, oh, what am I doing? And everyone says you're crazy, what are you doing? You're nuts for leaving. Then I just spent, I think, 2 or 3 months now. I think I left in maybe November, then by January, I got another job offer. But in that period, you're stressed. You go, how am I going to pay bills? What am I going to do? Like, I had no backup plan whatsoever. It was just like hustling for 2 or 3 months, and then eventually got a call from the City Group to go there.
Yeah. So how does that opportunity come about, and what is that conversation like? Because when you do mention the City Group, it's something that a lot of people aren't familiar with.
Okay, so the City Football Group is an organisation that kind of own clubs all around the world. So primarily they're in Manchester City, that's what they're known for, right? That's their flagship club. But they own clubs in Belgium, in France, in Australia, in Brazil. So they've got a lot of, still in Brazil, I think. I'm not sure if they sold that one. But they've got clubs all over the world, one in Asia also. So they've kind of expanded what their philosophy and their methodology to the world now. So before it was like, okay, here's a Man City philosophy and here's what we're trying to do here. Now it's like, here's a philosophy for a whole group. That was obviously like, again, it was one of those opportunities where I didn't really want to leave South Africa, but it was like, hey, if the City Group call you and say, are you interested? Like, I'd be crazy not to go. That was a conversation of, look, they were looking for someone mid-season. The head coach was English, so that would have made it easy for me to go and work together straight away. I had my interview with the City Group, and then had my interview with the club Lomo SK in Belgium, and then fortunately that went well, and then I think within a week I was like bags packed, flights, and off. And
you're in Belgium. So you arrive in Belgium, and what is the environment like? Especially considering then that you'd been in the UK, you'd been in Zambia, you'd been in South Africa. So you've traveled a bit, and you've seen sort of these different places with regards to culture and landscape. What was Belgium like, and what was the difference with regards to where you'd been in different places?
Completely different from South Africa. I found it really, really difficult, to be honest. Like, it was a really hard adaptation period. I think over the time, the more you travel, the more you realize what you want and don't want, right? It's like the more you experience, you can say, okay, I don't want this, and this, but I really enjoy this. So like, I already fell in love with like music. Like, even from when I was like 16, 17, I was really listening to South African music. I was actually DJing. Like, I've got videos of me DJing, playing South African music before I'd even been in the country. So like, I already had a love for South African music. So being here, like where it's from, like the original, like that was a big thing. And the food, like again, I was eating pub before I even come to South Africa, because in Zambia I was having it for lunch. So I cut like the food and the traditional food. I've been like everything about South Africa I'd already kind of fell in love with. So now I went to Belgium, which also got some great things about it, but it wasn't South Africa. It wasn't where I had said I love all of these things, So it was really, really tough to like adapt. And not to, like, I could do it because obviously England and Belgium have got lots of similarities in terms of the weather, the climate, and culture, some of the cultural aspects. But yeah, it wasn't South Africa. So from that perspective, I mean, for example, they made a joke about me for 3 months wearing my coat. Because even in the office, I was wearing my coat. I was always cold. And they made jokes about it. Even to this day now, if they call me, they're like, "Are you in your coat?" Because they just think like I'm addicted to it. But I found it freezing cold. Like I went there and it was like -5 and the snow was like maybe up to my knee.
Yeah.
When I got there. So it was like a big transition from that perspective. But look, from a club perspective and the people that I was working with, the biggest thing I took from that is like the head coach built a really good technical team. And not good just from quality, but the people that we had an environment where you could say anything and be 100% open, and I hadn't experienced that before. It was like the most genuine, open thing. And initially when I went there, so just to give you a story for it, I went there during COVID. When I got there, I had to isolate for 10 days. Now, while I was isolating, COVID was spreading around the club. So as I came out of isolation, the head coach had COVID, the assistant coach had COVID, the goalkeeper coach he did got COVID maybe a week after. But so on my first day at training, I was taking the session. I knew none of the players, and you're talking like in youth international players, under 20 Brazilian players, or under 20 Costa Rica players, really high level players. And my first day I'm coaching, and not only am I coaching the players, I'm coaching in an ice rink because our fields were iced over. So we now laid AstroTurf in a ice rink. So imagine literally an ice rink. I laid AstroTurf on an ice rink and had to put on a training session there. And then we had a game in 2 days. So I was literally doing match prep for a game for a team that I didn't know and players that I didn't know with staff that I didn't know. So it was that was a crazy introduction. And then I think, obviously, then when the staff then came back, there was a little bit of tension because now I've obviously just come in as a head coach. So like I felt like it was not as a head coach, but I was working as a head coach. And then now I think it caused some tension of like, what do I do now? So I've just taken training and run the whole thing, and now I've got to step back and do nothing. But after a week or 2 weeks of like some honest conversation stuff, it just became the best environment that I've worked in from a personnel perspective. Like really, really great environment.
And especially when you come from South Africa, and I like how it's juxtaposed. You know, you come from South Africa, which we all know that in South Africa, if you're a little bit too honest, it becomes a problem. You know, it's not an environment where you're allowed to express your thoughts entirely, because when you do it, then you step on people's toes, you know, and then you now go into this environment where you are allowed to be honest and you're allowed to be yourself, you know. So what happens then when you get to a point where you decide that you want to leave Lomel, and what was going on in your life at that time, well, with regards to the football?
I think there were just like some contractual issues that we kind of didn't meet on, and then I think I got a feeling that the head coach was going to move on. I mean, eventually he did. I think a few months later he did move on and went to MK Dons in England, and is having huge success there, doing really well this season, or just season just gone. So I had this feeling the head coach was going to move on. There were the contractual elements, and there was of course missing South Africa. So all those things kind of come together, and then I came back for holiday. And then, I decided that I wasn't going to go back for the next season, and that I was going to stay in South Africa. And that was like, again, a really tough decision. It was weeks of like thought and weeks of getting feedback from people. What do they think? Weeks of talks with the club. It was a really long process, but eventually I think I made the right decision for my personal journey.
And speaking of personal journey, you then have the opportunity to work with the Egyptian national team, the Egyptian FA. How does that come about? Because it's like, when I look at your journey, I think you've got such a beautiful journey. And with this journey, it keeps taking you back to Africa. Like, you keep coming to Africa, you know. So how does that come about?
I think it's been really tough because every time I come back to South Africa, I keep getting offers to go somewhere else. So even now, like, I just had to turn down another offer to go back to Europe, and I don't like, and it's not because the offers are not good. It's like I don't really want to leave, but at the same time, you need to obviously work. So, but there's something keeps pulling me personally back to South Africa. I think it's a lot of things, but I think the culture of the country and just the potential for football. You know, I think football is doing really well in terms of its growth and in terms of like the financial elements and marketing. I think the PSL has like done really well, from my personal opinion and what I've seen. But in terms of where the football could be at, I just think there's such a big gap. I just think the quality of football and the quality of coaching and the quality of the room for improvement is just huge. I'm not just talking about like in the PSL, I'm just talking about across the board. The potential that the players and the coaches have is just so big that I think that I'm attracted to being a part of that growth and trying to impact it whilst also taking value that I can get from it as I go.
Yeah, because I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I was telling him that I think you could be a great asset to South African football, and I think you should be coaching in the DStv Premiership as young as you are, because I know age here is such a huge thing, but with your footballing brain and the work that you've done as well, so yeah, from that perspective, I'd like to give you your flowers, and I really do hope to see you coaching a team within DStv Premiership very soon. But yeah, so with that, how was the experience of being part of the Egyptian national team?
Yeah, another crazy experience. So I just feel like I'm telling you crazy experiences. But I think initially I didn't want to leave and go to take another job abroad. But again, it was Carlos Queiroz calling, who's been a head coach at Real Madrid, assistant coach to Alex Ferguson. You're talking about like someone who's just got experiences that you can't pay money for to have them and learn from them. So when he called and said, "Do I want to go?" I think Roger Dessart was also going. So Roger Dessart put my CV forward. And then Carlos called to say, "Do I want to go?" And I remember I was driving into the petrol station, the garage, and then my phone rang and I saw a foreign number. So I thought this could be Carlos because Roger told me he could call. And then I'm listening to Carlos Queiroz on the phone, and I'm just like, "This is crazy. This is like, this is huge." So again, it's one of those situations where I want to be here, but then a big opportunity comes and you have to take it. And then when I was there, again, like we was living in the same hotel, myself, Carlos, Roger, and the technical team. So now I'm having breakfast with Carlos and Roger. Also, Roger's also got stories to tell and some huge experience in South Africa. So I'm having breakfast with them both. I'm having lunch with them both. I'm having dinner with them both. We're doing analysis together. We're watching games together. We're traveling together. So you're consistently around someone that's just worked at the highest level of the game. So that was really huge for me, and there were so many things to learn. But I think at the same time, there's those generational differences, which is not about right and wrong, it's just different. So there's a way of working that he's experienced through his journey. And of course, there's no doubt there's some amazing things in there because he wouldn't have had the success that he's had otherwise. But there's also a way of working now, a modern way of coming through and working that obviously clashes with some of those things. But yeah, look, of course, I'll always be grateful for that experience. And he was a great person to be around, like always supportive in terms of like you could go knock on his door and have a chat anytime. You could bring stuff up at breakfast and have discussions. And of course, the players that you're around, you got Mo Salah, like do you know what I mean? You're to that level of player. I can't say I'd experienced. I mean, obviously in South Africa, I worked with some international players or national team players. At Lomo's car, there was lots of youth internationals, like under 20 internationals. But in terms of like Champions League level players, now you've got Salah, you had Trezeguet playing at Aston Villa, El Neni at Arsenal. So you're just around like top level players, and of course even the Atli players and the Zamalek players, like they're top level players on the continent. So you're around an environment that was just like full of elite players and elite staff, which was fantastic.
I'm pretty sure that is one of the moments that like really rank high up, and just being able to see them in training sessions must have been like this phenomenal experience. But when you have a look at it from an overall perspective, and you look at what you're currently doing now, I mean, you've written books, you're developing training programs. How has that been like?
I think one of the most important lessons I've learned over the last 2 or 3 years is that in football you're going to have ups and downs no matter how good you are. You're going to get fired. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be without a job. It's part of it. Like there's going to be a day I'm going to get fired. It's going to come. Right? So accepting that and being honest with yourself about that means you've got to set yourself up to have not a backup plan, but have something else you love doing in those periods where you can add value and gain value, and take value. So I think coach education has been, remember I mentioned Warriors, like I quite enjoyed that. So it's like this secondary piece where I'm still involved in football, I'm still on the field helping coaches and I'm still working. But my focus is just now obviously coaches as opposed to developing players. So that piece has been really enjoyable. Look, it's not coaching, it's not working in a team. Nothing touches that. Like if I had to pick, there's not one day I'd rather be doing coach education over coaching in a club.
Yeah.
But if I'm not coaching in a club, it's like an amazing next best thing. So the few parts have been like, one, having a financial plan when you're not in a job, when you're not working. Second of all, it's a great way to add value. You know, I always think when you, as I mentioned, when you travel, or when you move, or when you're in football, like it's almost your job to add more value than you extract.
Yeah.
Like give more than you take. So this coach education process has been a really good way to try and add lots of value. And the messages I get now, I'm like so appreciative that I've had the opportunity to do it, because I think it's having an impact on so many coaches. Now hopefully we'll continue to do. That's the thing of writing books, isn't it? You write a book, like all these books behind us here. You write a book, whether you die, whether you leave, whatever, that book still remains, you know. So even if I was to leave the country, or I was going to go back into a job, I feel like I've left enough resources where coaches from across the world can access and still hopefully develop alongside their coaching badges and stuff like that.
Yeah. So ideally, what does a Michael Loftman team look like if you're the head coach? What are the principles? What is the formation? And how are you trying to impose yourself if you're a head coach?
Ideal scenario.
Yes, ideally.
Ideal scenario.
Yes.
Okay. Ideal scenario. I've had a fight with this about a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
Ideal scenario, we have 3 or 4 formations, and I don't pick the formation. So I did it to give you an example. So we'll talk about build up. So I try and break the game down, because you know now the game doesn't have formations, and you can't look at a formation and say, right, this is what they're playing today.
From a rigid perspective.
Yes, what you have to do now is look and say, within a particular phase, what does it look like?
Yeah.
So you'll see a team that looks different in build-up to when they're trying to beat the block. You'll see a team that looks different when they're high pressing versus when they're in a block. So now we're talking about phases of the game as opposed to just having one formation.
Yeah.
So ideal scenario, to give you an example, I'll have 3 or 4 formations, and they'll adapt based on the situation. So even you started to see a little bit of the MDC team. If you looked at just videos, you know, I didn't talk about it, you'll see us playing a back 3.
Yeah.
If you stopped clips, you'll see a back 3 with wing backs really, really high. And you'll see this structure, right, as I spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
But I didn't say to them, today we're playing a back 3. They adapt to the back 3 based on the picture that they see.
Yeah.
So ideal scenario is to say, right, okay, we have 3 or 4 formations. You guys will pick and adapt based on what you see. So for an example, so that's one of them, adapting into the 3. So my base will probably always be a 4-3-3, but we don't know. Football changes, and I'm open to the change. So your wingers will be here. But a similar adaptation now is like maybe a Liverpool. So, okay, our wingers are now going to come inside, and our strikers are going to drop in and play as a false 9. And we're going to make more that shape. Right? But the fluidity and the key for me of taking football to the next level is all these teams are playing different formations, and some teams are playing 3 formations. And at the moment, you're getting a lot of the time, the coach is saying, right, change to a back 3. For me, the next level is the players adapt to the back 3 based on the circumstance they find themselves in. So for example, the opposition is playing with 2 strikers. Now, some teams will say, right, okay, because they're playing with 2 strikers in this game, we're going to play a back 3 today. And I'm more of the approach, no, let's play the way we play. But if my number 6 decides that he needs to come here to receive the ball, and we need to open here, then everybody knows what that means for them. That means the 8s must now drop. That means now the wing backs must go higher. And that means the wingers now must come in. So you get to that structure without me having to say, right, we're playing a back 3, right, we're playing a back 4, right, we're playing a back 5. We're not moving between them from myself. The players are doing it themselves. So that's the vision of what I want to get to. If I want to change the game in any way, that's the way that I want to change it, is that players take more control of the pitch, because now we're educating them better. I almost need coaches on the pitch. I'm not the coach. The players become the coaches, because they manage the game on the pitch. Because they're the ones that feel it. Like, we think as coaches, I say I've thought as a coach that I have the answers. But whatever I see, I normally see it late. The player's going to feel it first. The player's involved. The player's happening. So when a player feels like he's under pressure, before I see that they're under pressure, they're going to feel it. So they can understand the adaptation of what's needed. So if they need a midfielder to drop in, or maybe they use build-up patterns where the midfielder comes out to make a 3 on the side. This player is going to feel it before I feel it, in most cases. They're going to feel, if they have the ball here, they're going to feel that, hold on, there's pressure here, before I do. So they're going to identify and say, hey, no, we need our wingers, our midfielders to come wider. If they're going to feel it first, I'm late. So I'm late to change it. So I change it, it's been like 5 minutes. By the time I've seen it, the analyst has maybe cooled down, or I've seen it on the pitch. Now I've decided on what change I'm going to make. It's already late. But the players can see it straight away. So it's a case of the players actually identifying and making movements and understanding that when one movement happens, what does it mean for everybody else? So for example, if Yeah, I want to put all these blues on, so it makes it a bit clearer.
Feel free.
Then the pictures are a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
Back 4, midfield 3, and then front 3. Is that right? Midfield 3, front 3 here. One too many. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, they're pressing tight on the wing back here. So remember, this is our wing back.
Yeah.
Our wingers inside here, and our midfielders here.
Yeah.
So if we're not having any luck playing passes here, and some coaches don't like playing these passes, so you hear there's Pep conversations saying, "Oh, we don't like these passes," and it's right. There's a reason not to do it.
Yeah.
But if we're having no luck by playing into the feet here, then this player already identifies as, hey, our midfielder might need to come out here to try and make a 3 on the side, right? So to deal with this 3v2. But the player feels it. Now he's already calling, or he's telling the midfielder to now do that. But now, what does this now mean for the other players?
Yeah.
So now, if you just do this, the picture's not okay. But now, if the midfielder comes across here, and the winger now drops in as another midfielder here, and then maybe the fullback comes around, now the picture is okay and it's safe.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But this movement, the movement of the midfielder to come into the space triggers the movement of the other midfielder to come across, which triggers the movement of this thing to happen, which now affects the whole picture.
Yeah.
But if the players can start identifying this themselves, then they're far ahead of the coach on the side.
Yeah.
So now when my team is adapting, their coach is now 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
Their coach is now, hold on, why is this midfielder coming here? What do we do now? By the time they've given the solution, we've changed again.
Yeah.
And now players not coming out here because they've now adapted to that. So for example, they've now adapted to that and they said they're now closing the line.
Yeah.
Well, my midfielder is now just going to come into the pocket here and receive and then play a diagonal pass or whatever from here.
Yeah.
But our players are ahead of them because they're relying on the coach, whereas my players are relying on the game.
Yeah.
The game is always happening.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that because it reminds me of Erik ten Hag's Ajax side and how fluid they were with regards to how they'd be looking to build up. There is a clip from the UEFA Champions League. I think they were playing against Sporting, if I'm not mistaken, and they were struggling with building up. From progressing the ball from the build-up phase into midfield. And what Alvarez does as the defensive midfielder, he notices that there is space in this pocket. So he goes from being a defensive midfielder, he drops in to facilitate a back 3 build-up, whereas Jurien Timber was a lot more tucked in, and then you had Martinez on this side. So Alvarez goes there as a defensive midfielder, which then allows Mazraoui, who was playing as a right back then, to push up. But when he pushes up into the half space. He had Anthony open up there. And just from that movement, they were able to open it up, progress the ball, and they were in the opposition half. So when you mention that, it shows how progressive you are in your thinking and how fluid you want to play the game, and the responsibility then does fall onto the players being able to have the smarts with regards to the movement and their game intelligence as well. But
100%.
yeah, so so we've got 2 more segments, and these are my favorite segments. It's little nice segments. So the first segment is Coach's Corner. And then the last segment will be Best 11. So we'll start with the Coach's Corner. I need your top 3 South African coaches.
On the spot, what a test. Okay, look, from a coaching perspective on the field, so Relani Mokoena number 1.
Yeah.
For sure. For the coaches that I've seen, tactically, technically, I don't think anyone has come close from what I've seen in South Africa.
Yeah.
No one's come close to that. So number 1, Relani Mokoena. And then 2 and 3, I'd probably have to go, okay, look, Pitso's unarguable because the trophies that he's won. So
yeah.
I've never worked with him. I've never sat and spoke to him about football. But when you've won that many trophies, who am I to say you're not up there, right? So,
yeah.
So he definitely has to go up there. And then 3rd, you mean ones that have worked here or ones that are from here?
Ones that are from here.
Okay, can I give a one who hasn't been in the PSL and been in professional football yet? But I think Karabo, Coach Karabo Mokudi.
Yeah.
Like his brain, he's got a crazy football brain also, and the level of detail that he puts into his work is unbelievable. So off the top of my head, if I'm thinking 3 local coaches, I'd say Pitso for the trophies because it's unarguable.
Yeah.
Relani Mokoena for the game models and the technical stuff is implemented already in the PSL.
Yeah.
I think Coach Karabo for what he can potentially bring in the future of the game, I think is huge.
Yeah. And then top 5 in world football?
Wow, what a question. Okay, number 1 is definitely Mourinho because he changed he changed English football for sure. I can't say for the other countries, I haven't lived there, but in England when he came, changed football completely. Changed the level of intensity, the level of detail, the level of thinking. You know, he turned football from being about getting the best players on the pitch and managing well to being tactical, and that was huge. And I don't think anyone was expecting that or ready for that in the Premier League. So Mourinho number one. I think Klopp number two, because I think what he's done and what he's built without spending top level money. So I say there's always that fight about Klopp and Pep, and for me, I always go Klopp as a personal thing, just because of the amount of the less resource. I say less resources, the lower spend, right, that he's had to use every season.
Yeah.
And the level of like the way the players are managed in terms of it's not just signing 4 players in one position and saying, okay, let's pick the best one and get rid of this one, or signing one goes, another one comes, another one comes. It's like he's actually built something using young players that have come through. You've got Alexander-Arnold, you've got Robertson that they brought for I think like 4 million or something, who's now one of the best left backs in the country, in the world arguably, getting to Champions League final. So Klopp as a number 2. What a tough. Pep has to go number 3, because my thing with Pep is, okay, yes, he's spent a lot of money and he's had top players, but in terms of coaching and revolutionizing coaching, I remember studying just a tactics board like this, maybe just a little bigger, and I literally drew out Pep's game model when I think it was like 22, 23. I just drew out Pep's game model from Barcelona, because it was the first time you saw a real clear way of playing, like where decision making was clear. You could almost tell the decision of the player before they get the ball, because you knew this is what Pep is looking for. So that was the first time I saw that. Arsene Wenger, because obviously it also changed football completely in terms of, especially off the pitch stuff. So the thing that I loved with him was the stories he tells about players and nutrition, for example, of like cutting up tomato sauce and sauces and stuff from the environment, saying this is it, you follow this diet, you eat your vegetables and your protein and stuff, but this is it. I think it was like, again, a real shift in culture from this, just have a few drinks after the game, you know, like eat your whatever you want to eat cultural food only. But he kind of said, no, this is what we're doing, we're professionals. So he professionalized other elements of the game, and of course what he did at Arsenal, the Invincible season was also incredible to see. So that's 4. Number 5. Who have I really? I think Pochettino, but for different reasons. Or Conte's also. Conte, but I think I have to go Poch, and I probably go Poch because of what I learned from Poch about relationships. So, as much as he didn't have the best players in the world, and he didn't necessarily have the best philosophy or methodology in the world to run, but the way he built key relationships was incredible. So, like the Kane and Dele Alli thing is a classic example of building a relationship where, okay, Kane is a world-class player, Dele Alli maybe not a world-class player, but in terms of getting 2 players and feeding off of that, and how important the key relationships are. So we focus on the 11 and say, right, here's a team philosophy or methodology, but he was able to get the best out of these 2. So he knows all this needs to work, but he says, how do we maximize this? Right? And we forget about that a lot. We forget about using those key relationships. So he would have to be up there. But the 5th place is very tough. But definitely the top 4, and then maybe Poch for that particular lesson would be up there.
So moving on then. Now we move on to, this is my favorite segment. This is Best 11. And yet again for this we got 2 editions. So the first edition is South African players. So I need your best 11 South African players for this one. And then the second one will be your best 11, that's the world edition.
Okay. So let me just go Reds.
Let me take out, okay, you'll take out the blues this side.
So best South African first, and then best...
So I would say the players that you've worked with, but I don't want to limit you. I would like to see what your best South African 11 looks like.
Okay, best South African playing currently, right?
Yes, currently.
Okay, playing currently. Okay, for the 4-3-3, it's just easy standard.
You're a 4-3-3 man.
Yeah, I am, unfortunately.
Same here, bro.
I am. I just like diamonds and triangles. They just look good. Okay, so best 11 now. Okay, Shaluli Laser, it's unarguable, right? For the goals that he scored last season, work ethic. Although he was playing off the side, I don't know if you saw what Sundowns were doing. Peter was playing off the side, which was great. But if I have to put Peter somewhere for now, put Peter here. Lorch for sure, off the left in the pocket. Off the right. Do we have to consider current form?
No, it's just up to you.
Because maybe I'd go Karma here.
Yeah, it's just up to you. It's your players.
That's my players.
Yeah,
I'm signing them all now.
Yes.
Okay, Karma's got to be here.
Yeah,
and maybe I go Luch here.
Yeah,
so I go Sherile, Karma, Luch.
Yeah.
Midfield, very very tough. Also, okay, Yusuf Maart.
Yeah,
I really like Yusuf Maart. I think he's a great talent. Maybe I put him in the 6. So Yusuf here.
Speaking of Yusuf, right? This season at his club, Sekhukhune, he's played a lot more advanced in midfield. But when I look at him, I see a player who would become a very good 6. I feel like the deeper he plays and the more simplified his game is, I think that he can be a lot more effective. What's your take on that?
I think he can play both. I like him in the 6. So I've never seen anyone right foot, left foot like that. I mean, I'm trying to think of players that I've worked with where they can do so much with both feet.
Yeah.
He is diagonal to both feet, comfortably.
Yeah.
Which means in the 6, he just offers you so much value because when he's getting pressure from either side, he can get out and create chances. So, so for me, I prefer him in the 6. But look, he can definitely play there. It's not a situation. You get some players where they have to be here. This is the only position. I think he can play both. But for me, he would be a 6. He would be a 6.
I agree, bro.
In the 8s, I would have to go. I want to say Ben Motswari, but I don't know. He hasn't played too much this season. But when he's playing, out of possession, unbelievable. Like his regains in a game, that times he wins the ball back for the team is just like, again, you don't find it very often. Yeah, I would say so. If we're talking about, I don't have to worry about form. Obviously, I put Karma. He's not been playing so much, or not been on top form. But I'd say Ben Motswari here. Yeah. I'm trying to think of players outside of the top team, so it's a bit fair. Yeah. I keep giving Pirates, Chiefs, and Sundowns and Sundowns players, but unfortunately, they tend to be up there. What do we got left? 1-8. I still want to go 10-10. Yeah. Remember, I know he's just been released from Amazulu, but when he's playing well and he's focused and he's in the right methodology, he's playing in a possession-based team, what he can do on the ball. Sure. And the thing for me, I don't want to lose that South African style of football, right? Yeah. So even if I want to bring a methodology like the one I discussed, I still want to have that flair. It's really important for me to still have that. So you're not, again, it's that involving the culture, right? You're not just bringing your own thing, you're actually taking. So having someone like that in the team means you can have those moments, right? Left back, I think the Sundowns, you've got to go mostly a back four of Sundowns, right? You've got Laulake. Yeah. I think I like Morena when he plays right back. Yes. Yeah. I really like him as a right back. His speed, you've seen him, it's crazy. Crazy. And you know the two I pick at centre back, who I really like? Happy Jele and Brian Onyango. Yeah. Brian Onyango as a leader and as an organizer, I think is fantastic, and a fantastic person also. Yeah. So you need fantastic people here. So I'd probably go Happy Jele and Brian Onyango at the back. Yeah. Goalkeeper Onyango, you can't. What can I say, right? Yeah. Dennis has been like most consistent over how many years now? Yeah. Taking it away from him, I like Ofori, but Onyango is definitely there.
Your captain?
I'll go Happy Jele captain, Brian vice captain.
Okay, moving on then. The World Edition. Best 11 players in the world.
It gets even tougher. Should have prepared for this, huh? Okay, let me think. Most important, Mbappe. Yeah. Salah. Yeah. Haaland. Yeah. Are you with me? Yeah, you're with me, right? Those three you can't.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just know once you've mentioned those three, people are already thinking, no Ronaldo, no Messi.
Yeah, but we're moving, man. Yeah. Okay, Salah's got 30, 31 now, maybe 31, 32 max. But we're moving with the new generation.
Yeah. No, definitely. I like that. I like that. A lot of people feel compelled to pick the obvious picks, just to play it on the safe side. But I like that. I like that front three.
Okay, I'm going Alexander-Arnold right back. Van Dijk definitely centre back. Van Dijk with, that's a tough one.
While you think about who partners Van Dijk, let's just go into Arnold a bit, because I know the criticism is always the defensive side with him. And what do you make of that? You know, especially considering what he offers Liverpool. Because when you look at this season, I feel like on the ball and from an offensive perspective, he's come full circle. Because early on in his career, we saw him occupy the wide channel a lot more. Now we're seeing him invert, and he's able then to do so much damage from the half space, where he's able then to play either those crosses or those penetrative passes, which makes him a lot more dangerous from sort of the right hand side, because he can either be useful from the right wide channel or from the half space, and at times he can look to break into the box, and then he's also got the threat of set pieces as well. What do you make of the defensive criticism with regards to him?
Look, there's definitely some individual element to that, of the mistakes that he makes. For example, Champions League, not checking over your shoulder, not opening the body at back post. But I think also you have to understand how Liverpool defend as a team, right? So I don't know if you follow expected goals. You follow expected goals, right? XG. So basically, the likeliness of a goal being scored. So I'm going to mess up the board again.
Yeah, no problem.
So the probability of a player scoring from this distance, right, is very, very low.
Yeah.
This might be like a 0.02 shot, something like that. Very, very low. So expected goal highest is 1. So if you're on the goal line and the ball is on the goal line, it's almost a 1. Like you're guaranteed to score. Here, obviously, you're less guaranteed to score. So on a coaching course, and for most teams, what happens is a player will go and press here, and then the team will close round, right, to stop that shot. So same if it's on Alexander-Arnold's side here. Generally, the player will go out and be aggressive, and then they'll close the space, right? Yeah. But Liverpool don't defend like that. Liverpool, especially last season, Liverpool actually just keep dropping and defend like this. So they defend and they drop into the box. Yeah. So they allow shots from here, and they wait till you get really close in the box. And even then, they don't like committing challenges. They won't make fouls. Yeah. They will rather let you keep dribbling and driving it closer to the goal until you can block a shot, until the team then recovers. So the team will come back. Yeah. So that I think that also plays a part on Alexander-Arnold's stats and his defense and the things you see defensively. Because you might say, why is he not going to press the ball? Why is he not going to engage? Why is he not winning the challenge? But there's a team element and an individual component. So, and then of course, as you mentioned, going forward, I love the fact that he can come into the pocket. Yeah. I love the fact that he can stay wide and hold the touchline. I love the fact that he can deliver from deep. So, like, remember what I said about having attacking output from your fullbacks? Yeah. Where you're going to get more attacking output. Yeah. So for me, that's a really big thing. Yeah. Sorry, going back. I messed the board up again.
We're going back. No problem. I love it. You must mess up the board. You're here to educate us. So you had Van Dijk, you had Alexander-Arnold, you had your front three. You're still deciding on your goalkeeper, your midfield, and your left back. Okay,
goalkeeper. It's also very, very tough. I want to say Courtois, but he can't play as a sweeper, which would probably fail. He doesn't like playing as a sweeper, it seems. And Neuer's the obvious option.
Yeah. Ederson
for his long... Okay, I'll go Ederson. Yeah. It's also an obvious pick, but I'll go Ederson. Ederson in goal. I've got to pick a right side centre-back, right? Yeah. If I say Konate, it's like I've picked a Liverpool back four. But Konate is also an absolute...
monster.
A monster. And he can play. Okay, I'm going to put Van Dijk here, and I'm going to go Laporte. Yeah. Left-footed centre-back. I do like a left-footed centre-back. So I'm going to go Van Dijk, Laporte, Alexander-Arnold, left-back. Also a tough one. Cancelo. And you know why I love Cancelo? There's these clips. Yeah. Cancelo using his right foot to create chances. Like, I love that. I was just watching the clips yesterday, going through them with...
outside of the foot?
No, he uses his right foot in a left-back position. So, you see one of the things... Again, sorry, I'm messing the board up.
No problem.
When players are pressing, right? One of the traditional ways to press a winger is you press and force them down the line. Yeah. Right, okay? If you do that, Cancelo can drive and dribble past you. Yeah. Okay. If you press this side, Cancelo can come in and then play passes and create chances. So there's times with his right foot, he's chipped the ball over for runners in behind, which is really, really powerful. So I think even one of the things I would want to do moving forward, if I get the right environment, is to have a left-footed right back and a right-footed left back. Yeah. So that now it's easy to dribble past either side. Yeah. But now when they do close the line, you can come inside and you can play penetrative passes. Yeah. So you can really hurt teams. So I think I would go. Yeah, Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, Laporte. And it leaves a midfield 3.
Yeah.
I've got Luka Modric has to go in there.
Yeah.
But he's also a bit older now. Now, Luka Modric has to go in.
Yeah.
Thiago, okay, Luka Modric and Thiago.
Yeah.
In my 8s.
Yeah.
And then my 6. Oh, that's also a tough one. My number 6 is really important. I want a 6 that could play in here and play a bit deeper. Fernandinho's past it.
Fabinho. Rodri.
Not for me. Not for me.
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know if there is a number 6 that plays exactly how
Yeah.
I'd want a number 6 to play at the moment.
Who can sort of drop in and make it a back 3.
Yeah, who can drop in and play comfortably in a back 3, but is also mobile. It's a big thing. I like having players that are mobile. Okay, the best we're probably going to get is Fernandinho at it. But even, you know what I like when they play in it? Is when Gundogan plays in here.
Yeah.
But
the
he's
game
not a 6.
the game intelligence, yeah.
Yeah, and he covers these spaces between centre-backs really well, especially defensively. I think got Tony Cruz, not quite for me.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna have to go. I'll have to go Fernandinho.
Yeah.
Fernandinho, although he's leaving, I'm quite sad he's leaving.
Yeah.
It's quite disappointing, but yeah.
And who's the captain of this team?
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk.
For me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a once in a decade kind of centre back.
Yeah.
He's got everything. I don't think there's a component of him that you would change.
Yeah. He's complete.
Tall, mobile, can drive in with the ball, passing range, good in the air, leader.
Everything.
Yeah, what do you want?
So let's just recap. You got Mbappe, Haaland,
Yeah.
Salah,
Yeah.
Thiago,
Yeah.
Modric,
Yeah.
Fernandinho,
Yeah.
Cancelo,
Yeah.
Laporte,
Yeah.
Edison, Van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I think that's my 11.
That is your 11.
Yeah, it might look a little bit different if I prepared in advance, had some kind of thing, but I think that's my strongest. If I had to go now, that's my strongest.
Yeah. So in closing, and we have a look at it, you've worked in different capacities at football clubs. So you've worked as a sports scientist, you've worked as an analyst, you've been a youth development coach. You've sort of, I could say, come full circle. You know, which role has been your favorite, and which role is the most difficult?
The answer for both is head coach.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling in the world, but it also comes with the most pain.
Yeah.
I speak more for the Zambia situation. So Pirates, MDC, tough, but more tough because of the expectation of the club you're working for. But the league wasn't tough. Like MDC wasn't a tough league for the level of play that we had. But the Zambia experience, it was like this addiction. Like you were just so excited to wake up every day, but you knew you were going to have drama.
Yeah.
You know those situations. It's not necessarily healthy for you. But that's what being a head coach is like. You wake up in the morning, you can't wait for the day to start, knowing that by 10 o'clock you've already got 3 problems to deal with. This player didn't turn up for training, or this player wants to leave, or the president wants to see you, or all these problems you can have. But definitely for me. The best experience and the most difficult.
Michael, thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me.
For coming through. I really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And I hope the viewers as well will appreciate it. I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And personally, I'd like to see you in the DSTV Premiership coaching very soon. That is just my personal wish, because I think you could be a phenomenal asset, to our football. And also considering how progressive you are in thinking, you're young, but you've done so much and you've experienced so much as well at a young age, and what you can bring to the game as well, So club owners, if you're watching, make my dream come true.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
I
appreciate it. So that was another special episode of Disky Talk with Luyolo. Signing out.